Do you struggle with terraforming? Well, then you've come to the right place, because I do that too, but I figured out if I just use enough gradients, nobody will be able to tell. So today I'm going to show you 10 different gradients that you can use in your terraforming, can and should. First up, we have this gradient that goes from grass to sand, and in between it uses mossy cobblestone, glow lichen on top of some suspicious sand, and then normal sand. I also made examples to all the different gradients to show how I would implement them in a build, and here obviously it's a beach, and as you can see here, I have also mixed in some patches of sand with some glow lichen on top to make it look like sand that's blown off the sandy part. Next up, this gradient right here goes from cobbled deep slate to cobblestone, and it uses cobbled deep slate, the top of deep slate, tough, and then cobblestone. And here's what that looks like in the build, and here I've tried to emulate wet rocks with the darkest parts. So as you can see, all the blocks under this water here are dark, and then it progressively gets lighter as we go up. Also some mossy cobblestone and dripstone for some texture. Next, this gradient right here goes from mud to rooted dirt, and it uses muddy mangrove roots, podzol, coarse dirt, and leaf litter, I believe it's called. Yeah, leaf litter on top of these two, and then rooted dirt. Here's what this looks like, and in this example I've made a bog. Also, the short dry grass and tall dry grass, they're fantastic for this type of build. Now next we have this gradient that goes from grass to gravel, and in between it uses mossy cobblestone with some glow lichen on top, and then cobblestone. This is probably one of my all-time favorites, and whenever I use this I try to use the glow lichen to blend the two sides together. Here it desaturates the green, and here it adds some green or maybe cyan, I suppose, to the otherwise pink gravel. And here's what this looks like in an example. I use this for paths all the time. You will rarely ever catch me using the path block. Okay, basically what I'm trying to say is that I really like this gradient. Okay, don't call me a hypocrite. This gradient right here goes from stone to snow, and in between it uses andesite, diorite, calcite, and yeah, that's it. I like using this to soften this dark contrast that so often shows up when building mountains. Now this gradient right here goes from coarse dirt to grass block. It's a bit of a long one, but in between it uses normal dirt, rooted dirt, dripstone block, dripstone with glow lichen on top, mossy cobblestone, moss, and then grass. Wow, gorgeous. Here's how I would use this in a build. So here it's kind of acting as patchy grass, really patchy grass. Yeah, I thought the context of a football goal made a lot of sense, since people have obviously been walking here and, footprints, torturing grass torture, and all that stuff. Okay, next gradient. This goes from red sand to normal sand, and in between it uses stripped jungle wood, stripped birch wood, sus sand, among us in real life, sus. I'm a comedic genius, guys, what can I say? And then on top of that, I've used resin clump. Here is how I would go about blending this, and as you can see also in this example right here, I've placed the resin clump very sporadically to kind of act as sand particles from the red side. I've also used the suspicious sand to texture on the normal side. And next up we have this gradient right here that goes from cobbled deep slate to coarse dirt, and in between it uses the top of deep slate, tough dripstone, rooted dirt, normal dirt, and then the coarse dirt. Now this gradient to me screams cliff, so in this example I've made this gorgeous looking cliff with this waterfall and the cherry blossom, which is really sugoi. Now this gradient is the second last one. It goes from tough to calcite, and in between it uses stone, andesite, light grey concrete powder, glow lichen on top of diorite, and then the calcite. To be completely honest, I don't know how you're really supposed to use this one, so I tried to build some really stylized terrain. Now this is the very last gradient, and this goes from cobbled deep slate to grass block, and in between it uses the top of deep slate, tough, mossy cobblestone, moss block, and then grass. Guys, confession, I used to really dislike the greenish undertone of the tough block, but once I realized it goes really well with moss and mossy cobblestone, I started loving it. Anyway, here's what this looks like in the terrain. So as you can see here, I've started with the darkest blocks, then progressively it gets lighter until it just blends in with the rest of the grass. Okay, thank you for watching. Like, do the things they tell you to. Okay, cue epic gamer outro.